Hello everyone, welcome to our 24th episode of PMP Exam Prep Power Hour. And today we are going to explore something about Agile Matrices as a starting topic. And then we, as usual, get into the details of your questions and explore how can we assist you in getting your PMP certification faster. So that's the usual agenda. Initial 20 minutes will go in around the focus topic, hopefully the Agile Matrices, and then we will drive as per the conversation goes. So I see some of you started joining in. I also see that YouTube is still streaming the content to your stream. And yes, I can see the YouTube is in, as well as the LinkedIn is also showing the status as a live event. So I can comfortably assume that both the places, the stream is working well. So I'm your host, Saket Bansal. I teach project management, Agile related topics. And today I am focusing on Agile Matrices. So let's get into the details and talk about Agile Matrices to start with before we get into the detailed questions. So I see hello coming in from LinkedIn. I see hello coming in from YouTube. Hello, everyone. Thank you for saying hi. So I know that things are working well. Okay, so let's talk about matrices. So before we get into the details, first thing is that we are focusing more on typically discuss matrix related topics as per PMP exam, because this topic could be wide. And for a PMP exam, the biggest problem is we end up spending too much time learning about things which may not come in the exam. So I want to create a subset of it, but at the same time, I also want to give you the information about the Agile matrices. Now, before we go into specific matrices, what is matrices, what kind of matrices we have, and why should we care about them as a project manager? In general, we do our project management and we want to know where do we stand, what kind of things are working, what kind of problems we are facing, and we want to have some fact-oriented information which can give us a warning signal, which tells us the health of the project, health of our outcomes, and those indicators, those kind of things are matrices. So we want to capture and monitor some set of information which can help us in giving or fixing our path, early feedback thing. That's a matrix goal. Now, in our PMP exam, we do have a 8% content focusing on outcome related topics, the business domain. So outcome is something which is related to project objective. You are doing this project in order to achieve what? So the matrices which helps us in tracking how are we progressing towards the end outcome are outcome related matrices. Now, it may not vary much from agile and non-agile. Outcome is something as a business result you want to get. So outcome matrices, in my opinion, will be a little bit generic. They will be more or less same in the agile as well as non-agile manner. We can use return on investment as an outcome matrix you see in your PMP content. You also see a OKR oriented outcome matrices like objectives and key results. So you may have a high level objective and specific key results which you want to track in order to achieve that particular objective. It could be based on your area of work. Sometimes the customer acquisition, the amount of time customer or users spend on your website, the number of say leads you get, number of inquiries you get, all those could be the outcome matrices. So depending upon my project objectives, I set up the outcome matrices and we track them on a periodic basis and we work collaboratively, the business stakeholder, in order to track the outcome matrices. So that's a business domain, little bit information to start with. Afterwards, you will have a lot of output matrices, variance matrices, quality matrices, team health check matrices. So output matrices, what we can think of, how are we doing as per the deliverable? What kind of work we have produced? Have we achieved our upcoming milestone by way of producing the right deliverable? So those kind of matrices which are more focused on the result we have produced, we can call them as an output matrices. We will talk about some of them related to Agile in this particular session. This output matrix may be different for Agile and non-Agile because of the nature of work. The variance matrices are usually common in a predictive life cycle. In the adaptive life cycle, we don't focus on creating the plan and tracking against it. Rather, we focus on we make something, we take the journey, and we learn as we go along and adjust our path. Yeah, because we are working in the environment where things are unstable, so we can't have a layout plan, and then the variance tracking is not that much important. Yeah, sometimes you see those kind of content. Again, hybrid project management, those things can also exist, but in general, we don't focus too much on variances in agile ways of working. Then we can have things like quality matrices which might be coming like audit report, defect reports, defect trends, control charts. So those all matrices may also be present. In the agile way of working, non-agile way of working, I say that quality metrics may be a common, and that's why the quality management topics in your project management area will cover those quality matrices. Then we can have a team health related matrices, team capability related matrices, like when you talk about team performance assessment, you support team performance, you may check what is their motivation level, how collaborative they are. So you may have a subjective evaluation, you may have some survey based evaluation, which can help you in checking how are we doing as a team level collaborative environment in our team. So you may have those kind of matrices as well. So this is like an overview. In general, we are focusing on some of those matrices which are commonly seen in our agile topics now. Yeah. So I start with the formal introduction of the key matrices which are relevant for your PMP exam. Now, though it is not very clearly coming in your PMP exam content, if you follow PMI exam content, which you have authorized PMP exam preparation, but the first matrix in case of agile way of working is a working software. First, you focus on outcome, I guess, nowadays. But for Agile Manifesto, they focus too much on working software. So I would give a first preference to outcome and second preference to working software. Now, what is this working software and how it can become a matrix? So we work in a time boxed manner. That's what you learn in the agile ways of working. You have a running requirement document. You are taking that in a sprint planning meeting. You are finishing the time box, and you have something which is ready to demonstrate, ready to release. You have something which is completed as per definition of done, something you might have studied. So the review of that working deliverable, that output you have achieved at the end of the sprint, is something the first level matrix which tells me how are we doing. Because we may have a status report saying things are working, things are not working in the form of Excel sheet or any other format. But when we see the real output, yeah, when we see the real deliverable, when we see the real increment, we come to know more about it. So whenever you face a question in the PMP exam, and if you see that somebody will say, oh, you want to know how are we doing? You want to demonstrate the work status of your project to your stakeholders. What will you do? And one option says, show them XXX metrics, a Burndown chart or something like that. And another option says, show them a working software. You always go for working software. So working software is always a preference thing because it is more factual, it has less interpretation errors, and it can give us a very objective evaluation of where do we stand. So as a project manager, I give importance to working software as a first measurement tool of my progress. So that's an important point to keep in mind for PMP exam. Now, the second thing which you see very frequently in your PMP content as well as in Agile plays is a Burndown chart, and then followed by Burnup chart. But Burndown chart you will see very frequently in the questions as well, in the content as well. So Burndown chart is a kind of a line graph which you prepare. You have x-axis and y-axis. Whenever you talk about any chart, you need to be very clear what is there in the x-axis and what is there in the y-axis. I personally believe if I'm very clear about x and y-axis, I understand the chart after that. Yeah. So the x-axis will have a time units. Now time units could be days if you are focusing on sprint level Burndown chart. Time units could be iterations if you are focusing on release level Burndown chart. So you have a x-axis as a time and y-axis as a remaining work. So the Burndown chart tracks remaining work at a given point in time. So say after day 2, how much work is remaining? So I will go in x-axis day 2. I will see the y-axis which will put a point which talks about how much work is remaining. So it should go down. That's why it is called burn down. And because the remaining work should reduce. And by the end of the iteration, in case of we are tracking iteration Burndown chart, or by the end of a release, in case of a release Burndown chart, we should be approaching the zero. We are approaching the zero, which means we have not left any work for given release or given iteration. So that's a Burndown chart. The advantage of it is easy to interpret. It is easy for stakeholder to understand what is remaining. The disadvantage associated with it, it's a little simple information. It may not tell you the reasons of why we are slow, why we are fast, or why we have a more work remaining than we initially anticipated, because it is just showing you what is remaining. So it required more analysis, and you may need to look other metrics when you are looking at a burndown chart. So whenever you see a question related to burndown chart in your PMP exam, one thing, if you remember, things will be good, that it shows the remaining work. Sometimes you also get a question that in a burndown chart, there is a target line. So target line is expected remaining work, yeah, at a given point in time. So you create an expected remaining work, and you have actual line. Now, if actual line is above the target line, yeah, it means you are slow, because you have more work left than expected to be left. So this information we need to keep in mind. If my actual line is above the target line, then I have a more work left. If my actual line is below my target line, then I have a less work left, which is good. Yeah. So if I have a target, if my actual line is below the target, I'm doing good. If my actual line is above the target, then I have a thing to investigate as a project leader, and I will work with my team to find out how do we improve this. So that much is good enough for your PMP exam, for your burndown chart. Then the little different chart, another line graph, we call it Burnup chart. So as you see, it should go up. Yeah. So again, we focus on x-axis and y-axis. The x-axis are time units, yeah, like our burndown chart. The y-axis in this case is completed work. It's not remaining work. So work completed, and that's why we are expected to go up. Yeah. So Burnup chart shows a progress towards the target. Now, in order to make this chart more informative, we also put a high-level line which talks about the target line, or where you want to go. So you can say, I have a target line which is 100 story point, for example, and I'm chasing this particular target, and right now I'm at a 30 story points. So I know the 70 story points are left. So it shows a target line on top, and then it shows a chasing line. So it gives two information, where you want to go and where you are. That's why it is a little more informative. But what is not so good, some mental calculation is needed in order to find out what is remaining. The burndown chart only shows the remaining, the difference between where you want to go and where you are, whereas a burnup chart, both the things. Now somebody will say, can I plot the two charts using the same data? The answer is yes. Yeah. So same information can plot you a burndown chart, same information can plot you a burnup chart. It is just a different way of presenting the information. The question can come in your mind, what is the advantage of burnup chart? I can say there are two information, anything else? So this two information also gives you more fluctuation information. So if you have a target line which is on top and that goes up and down, so you know that there is a scope fluctuation happening in my release. So say I have reduced the scope, then my target line is no more 100 story points, it's 80 story points. So the upper line fluctuation can also be plotted well in case of burnup chart. And then the progress which you are making, cumulative story points you are finishing per iteration, that is also becoming visible there. So it's more informative, usually preferred by the scrum masters and project leaders when they want to do a little bit analysis of their work, and that's a burnup chart. So you use it to show the progress as well as the target line. Yeah? So that's something you need to keep in mind. So what we have done till now, we spoke about working software, we spoke about generic metrics, working software, and then burndown chart and a burnup chart by now. Now a little bit more, I know a lot of metrics is velocity. So many a time I see our PMP participant get confused about velocity, because there has to be very different understanding or two understanding of velocity. One is estimated velocity, another is actual velocity. When you are doing release planning, you need an estimated velocity. When you are doing actual collection of metrics, you need an actual velocity. So what is velocity? Velocity is number of story points finished, done in a given iteration. That's the velocity. You sum total. So say you have finished 3 stories marked as per definition of done, and you sum total the story points of these 3 stories. Say the story 1 was 3-pointer, 2 was 5-pointer, and third was another 5-pointer. Then it says 5 plus 5 plus 3, the 13 will be my velocity. So number of the stories which are marked completed, I sum total their story point, and that tells me the velocity. Now what is the estimated velocity? Based on my trend from last 5-6 iterations, if I want to project in order to do long-term forecasting, I will say historically my velocity has been between 15 to 20. And if I see this particular trend, I can project for upcoming 3 iteration, 4 iteration also, we will be in the same range. And that can help us in doing release planning. So velocity can help us in doing the forecasted velocity, which help us in doing release planning. Another advantage of velocity or use of velocity could be that we can say how together as a whole team, as a whole environment, we are collaborating to reach to our goal, to finish our outputs. Output focus, it's not outcome based, because we are just finishing the user story. We don't know the impact of the user story. We are just saying the stories are completed. So it also gives us some quantification of how much output we have generated in a given iteration. So that's another utility of velocity. Yeah. So this matrix, then you can use Kanban board. Yeah, Kanban board is something, if you have studied some of the lessons of PMP, now probably you know already. If you are already familiar with agile ways of working, then you know all the time about Kanban board, because this is something, the basic thing we learn as we start learning about agile ways of working. So it's a visual representation or indication of how are we doing. So it is like you have a workflow. Say you take step 1, step 2, step 3 in order to finish a work. You make a columns for those workflow. You can say step 1 could be analysis, say backlog. Step 2 could be analysis. Step 3 could be a design. Step 4 could be implementation. So you will make a columns, and then you will start putting the various elements of work items under those columns based on where they are at a given point in time. And then you put some more extra policies like work in progress limit, some rule of when can item go from one column to another column, and you establish some policy which facilitate creating a pull system. So that's a little detail about Kanban board. This much detail is not needed for your PMP exam. For your PMP exam, what is basically needed is, as soon as Kanban board comes, you understand it's a visual way of showing the status of the information of where we are right now. It is usually used as an information radiator. So what is information radiator? Something which gives information all the time. It supports pull information, pull communication. You probably know in a PMP language, push, pull, and interactive communication. So you put something at a visible place so that people can consume that information. If it's a digital thing, it might be in a format of dashboard. Kanban board usually work as a good information radiator. So it helps us in creating the common understanding of where do we stand, and which can help us in exposing problem and creating better collaborative discussion to solve those problems. So that's a Kanban board for a PMP exam. Then we can talk about maybe a few more. Yeah, lead time, cycle time, throughput. I think I can talk about these 3 things also. So lead time, cycle time, throughput. These are the 3 matrices usually more associated with on-demand scheduling. So when you study your PMP exam, you know that we focus on 3 types of scheduling: predictive lifecycle scheduling, adaptive time box scheduling, which is like Scrum, and then the on-demand scheduling, which is more like a lean Kanban or a flow-based working. So these are the 3 type of scheduling we learn in our PMP content, yeah, for a current PMP exam content outline. So when we are doing on-demand scheduling, when the things keeps coming, and as soon as things comes, we have a based on our Kanban board, we take them to a next step, and we finish them. So lead time is something, the time we take to finish a request. So say my customer asks me to clarify something, I report that particular query, and then I take some time to close that query. How much time I took to resolve from starting the query till having acceptance from the customer, closing of it, that is a lead time. I keep giving a simple example in my classes that, like, if you order a pizza and you get the pizza at your home, so the pizza guy will track the lead time, the time between the order to delivery, that will be a lead time. So it starts at a customer, it's ended at the customer, and we manage that particular time. We want to reduce it, we want to optimize our processes, and this is more useful when you have a similar kind of work coming in. Yeah. You don't want to estimate work differently. That is the kind of on-demand scheduling you are doing, and you are not putting sprint planning and other things. You just have a flow-based working, so you have a tracking of how much time we are taking to resolve our deliveries. That's a lead time thing. Now, subset of the lead time could be a cycle time. So if I extend the pizza example, we can say, yes, we take 20 minutes to deliver a pizza, for example, from getting a call till we make a delivery, but it takes 5 minutes to make the pizza ready. Yeah? So that's a cycle time. So we can say, what is the cycle time of making the pizza ready? We can say 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes we make the pizza ready. But there is a distribution time and there are other things. But if you want to improve the efficiency of preparation, or if that's the focus area, then I can say this is the focus area I want to track more, and that will be your cycle time. Now, in your on-demand scheduling, the another metrics which we can talk, I think, without creating much confusion today, is a throughput. So throughput is the number of items finished in a given time period. So say how many pizzas we have delivered today. That's a kind of a matrix. So it's a kind of velocity. Yeah, you can say velocity is a sum total of story points delivered in an iteration. So throughput is just a counting the number of items for a given duration. It could be an iteration, it could be a week, it could be a month. You need to find out what time interval you want to use. But counting the item for a given interval is something you do as a throughput. Why should we use it? It is used for capacity planning, like we are doing for velocity. It helps us in understanding. So say if we have been showing a throughput of 1,000 pizzas every day, we know that this is something we can handle comfortably. And today, if we have produced 800 because of various reasons, we know that we have not utilized our the possible throughput or available capacity for today because of various reasons. So that is something a throughput matrix can help us in identifying it. Now, if you go a little complicated out of these three, final one, could be a final thing which comes as a cumulative flow diagram. For a PMP exam perspective, you don't have to get into much detail of cumulative flow diagram. If you are already working in Agile, Scrum, using tool like Jira and all, then you can see this all. But in a simple word, for a PMP exam perspective, you can say cumulative flow diagram shows a flow of item over a period of time on the Kanban board. You can say we have various stages in our Kanban board, and I look at a Kanban board, gives me a right now information, instantaneous information. I want to see what was the history of last 15 days, 1 month, how many items came, they moved from one stage to another stage, how many items were blocked on a particular day, what was the say work in progress at a given point in time during the last 1 month. I want to see a diagrammatic presentation of it. That is called cumulative flow diagram. So it will be showing the various areas. It's an area chart, and the area of each stage of the Kanban board is shown there. So we can see overall how the flow is happening in our Kanban system. Yeah, that's a high level information. You can keep it for cumulative flow diagram. Beyond this will not be needed for your PMP exam. So you can say it's a good tool for on-demand scheduling. The cumulative flow diagram can show me a trend related to lead time, cycle time, and throughput. Some kind of indicator can come. That's another thing I can keep in mind. And I also keep in mind this is something which is showing me the flow or a status of the flow based on some duration which I have to focus on. It's a kind of a trend of my Kanban board which is visible with the help of cumulative flow diagram. I think if you get these many matrices decently understood for your PMP exam preparation, you are good. You should be able to handle agile feedback related topics or questions well in your PMP exam. Okay, so now the focus topic is done, and we are here to talk about your queries, and we can move forward. So we have a question, how many questions we can expect from these topics in the PMP exam? So say a topic wise explain the breakup is not there. Yeah, but we know that when we are talking about scheduling, when we are talking about the overall tracking, the total number of questions in the area of scheduling could be around 10. Yeah, so 5 into predictive and 5 into adaptive. In the adaptive, rough estimate, I think 3 to 5, not more than that. That's the kind of questions you can expect. The another important thing is sometimes the question is not on this topic, but might be referring this topic. Yeah? So say the question could be a conflict, but it may start with that your Burndown chart is showing something, your velocity is showing bad, and your stakeholder is not happy with it and he wants to do something else for you. So though the question was more about stakeholder engagement, stakeholder conflict, but they created a situation around velocity. They created a situation around some metrics. So we need to have an awareness. We can't say this topic I want to leave it and I want to do a PMP preparation for other topics. So because overall terminology and understanding is needed. Okay, so that was the first topic related to this. If you the first question related to this, and if you have more, we can take it from here. And anything else other than this particular topic is also could be our area of focus for today's conversation. As usually we do, we focus on anything which is related to your PMP exam preparation. In the meantime, you all are putting your questions. I want to share one update. So this thing I pasted already in your LinkedIn as well as in your YouTube comment. So we have created one WhatsApp community where you can join, and that gives us a little continuation of connection beyond these sessions. Yeah, that is something we can focus on. Yeah, so that's something you can join. So can you elaborate OKR or KPI from the real-time industry perspective? So first thing is, the OKR is usually focused on having an objective and defining some of the tracking you want to do against that objective. Yeah. So say you have to start with a project objective. So if I take my example of, say you want to do a process optimization, yeah? Say that could be a one project, or you want to launch a carpooling app. So what is your objective? So the objective could be that we want to diversify, or objective could be that we want to have a product which gives us big customer base. So the organization may have, or a high level project objective is we want to acquire a customer base so that we can create various products and other services on that particular platform. So that's an objective. Now, how do we know we are going towards that objective? Yeah? Then we need to put some key indicator, key results. And I say these are the key results we are expecting. So maybe you have a key results expectation that I want to have, say, 100,000 people enrolling to this particular app every month. That could be. Or sometime you may have a key objective or a key result you want to focus on, that I want to achieve a market dominance in that particular area, or I want to launch that particular product by this particular timeline so that we are first in the market. That could be a key results as well. So something which helps you in tracking that we are going towards that particular objective is your key results. Yeah, that's something you can follow. Now, key performance indicator could be anything. A key performance indicator for any area which you want to track, any area. So say I want to track profitability. That could be my key performance indicator. I want to track my net promoter score. Yeah, that could be my key indicator. Anything which you want to focus on can be your key indicator. Yeah, that's something you can say. So can we speak about qualitative metrics and all? So in general, these things will not come in your PMP exam, and they are not much associated with only agile way of working. But you may need to create some mechanism of capturing customer satisfaction. If you check customer satisfaction and you have some rule for it, usually done in the form of net promoter score, then it will be your outcome metrics, which can probably help you in identifying how are we doing. It's a subjective metrics. You need to see what kind of objective you have to track it. But if you want to track it, you can definitely do that. Yeah, so that's something you can follow. Now, code coverage, defect density, defect leakage. So please keep in mind, the PMP exam is not primarily designed for software developers. Yeah. So we don't expect the code coverage kind of metrics becoming visible in PMP exam. Yes, there is a little exposure towards software when we talk about user stories and all, but I don't I anticipate that you want to learn about those IT matrices. So if you want to learn about IT matrices, yes, you can definitely focus on how much my automated testing is, how much code is covered by unit testing. You can have all those kind of matrices and tools can give you, but for PMP exam, you don't have to worry about it. Defect leakage also, yeah, leakage is a special thing when you do a face-to-face delivery. First thing is defect leakage is not usually used in agile way, but it's a predictive life cycle way, because you want to say leaking from one phase to another phase. Sometimes people start tracking the leaking from one iteration to another iteration. But for the interest of everyone, I recommend not to get worried about it, because the bigger problem in PMP is studying something which is not relevant for project management. So keep in mind, it is not about something just about IT. It is a generic thing. Yeah. So that's something you can say. And defect density is also number of defect in a particular line of code or particular story points. Usually not that commonly used. In our agile content, it used to be our traditional metrics, but for PMP exam, you don't have to worry about defect leakage, defect densities and all. But yes, if it is present, I can say it's a quality metrics. As per my project initiative, if it is needed, as per my organization process, if it is needed, I will follow it. Yeah. Then I can do all those kind of things. but I don't have to understand, calculate and show all those things in the PMP exam. Okay. Another thing is, how do you start a new initiative or a requirement session? So say we need to see the overall 4 options in our PMP exam. Yeah? Because this session, I want to be very specific for exam preparation, because general opinion could be any. So how do you start your project? So I want to start my project by way of creating common understanding about project. So as a project manager, I get activated when I get a project charter. Then I do my research. I talk to my stakeholders. I study my existing documents, could be business case or could be project contract. And by understanding business case, project contract, interviewing with stakeholder, I collaborate and find out quickly within a week or so, I find out what is the high level objective of the project. And then I initiate a project kickoff meeting where I explain my common understanding to my set of stakeholder, or I ask my stakeholder to explain it. And we have a common understanding that this is how we want to go. And based on that, we initiate what we want to do next. Then you will start doing requirement gathering events. Now, it could be many ways. You may do a facilitated workshop, you may do benchmarking, you may do document analysis, you may do interviews of your people, you may go for observation. If you are focusing on agile way of working, you may focus on creating user persona, you may do a user journey map, you may start facilitating like a product box exercise. You see that word in your PMP content as well. So you facilitate and create high level understanding so that you feed into your product backlog. From agile perspective, for a PMP exam, you should know about product backlog, epic, features, user story, and user story mapping. So these are the possible tools you do. User story mapping especially, which helps you in understanding the flow of the user. So by applying these all ideas, depending upon the context, depending on project you are doing, you can move forward. So is it an agile, non-agile, where we are, how much detail the project charter is, how much vagueness is there, and based on that, we will take this particular question forward in case of PMP exam. Now, interesting question, who is the owner of OKR, KPI, is the sponsor or a project manager? So let's focus more on PMP exam to extend this question. In our PMP exam, we can have outcome-oriented matrices. Yeah? So outcome-oriented matrices could be like ROI, customer acquisition, number of sales you made, and you have a high-level objective, and there are some key results which you are capturing for that. We understand, as per our PMP, the outcomes will come as a system. They will not be coming just as a project. So I might create a good product, but if the marketing response is not there, then we may not be able to acquire appropriate customer base. Yeah? So if my support staff is unable to support that particular product, then also we may fail. And amount of sales, the dollar value and all, I may not have an access to it. So for tracking the outcome matrices, if I use our PMP understanding, I as a project manager will collaborate with the stakeholders. We may have someone called or taking care of ownership of benefit ownership. In our general word, we can call the person benefit owner. And the benefit owner is expected to be driving the outcome matrices. I may have some information which is coming from my project, but I alone will not be able to drive the outcomes as well as correct if some problems are there in the outcome, because there are multiple factors. So as a project manager, we understand we need to apply system thinking for the outcome oriented things. So you can definitely use the benefit owner as a word who will be facilitating and driving the OKR and any outcome matrices. If that word is not there, you look for someone higher in the options. Product owner is a good option. You can say product owner should be tracking the outcome matrices if the question indicates that. If customer is a word, that's also a good option. If the sponsor comes in, then also a good option. Please understand, in a PMP exam, we can't have a black and white. Tell me who will track the outcome in the project. So that cannot be a one word which will be applicable to all projects, because reality is things changes. So each project has a different mechanism of execution. Each organization has their different style. But we understand it will be not done alone by the project manager, because you may have a limited reach when it comes to the outcome. Okay. So we are saying if the scope changes middle of the sprint, which chart will get affected, burn down or burn up? So please try to understand, both the chart are showing same data. Yeah, that's the same thing. And indirectly, directly, both chart will have an impact. If your remaining work is increasing or if your remaining work is decreasing, any chart will get impacted. Yeah, that's there. Now, the question could be, do I know this impact of the chart is happening because of scope change? Or do I know this impact of the chart is happening because of slowness in our technical problem? That information may not be coming out from a burn down chart. A burn down chart will say we have a more work left than we initially estimated, or we have a less work left than we initially estimated. But we don't know the less work is happening because my stakeholder has removed work from my plate, then also I have a less work left, or my stakeholder has added work from my plate, then also I have a more work left. So that information will not come in that case. The burn-up chart usually you show in the case of release space. Yeah, then Burnup chart can show these two information separately. You can say, this is how I was progressing. Now upper line has been fluctuated. So please keep in mind, it's the same data getting plotted in a two format. The Burnup chart usually done at a release level, which shows these things more clearly. The Burndown chart will show the fluctuation, but someone has to do a double check to find out why this fluctuation has happened. Somebody says, why we are keeping it like this? Because we want to make it simple for the stakeholder to see where we stand rather than getting into too much details. Okay. So is these matrices are good enough, sprint burn down, release burn down, velocity chart, control chart for what? For PMP exam? Yeah, if I can say so. So say in general, you are focusing on general Scrum way of working, Agile way of working, then burn down, sprint burn down, release burn down, burn up at a release level, something comes very frequently. Control chart, Jira shows you most of the thing. PMP exam also asks you for control chart, that is needed. There could be various other matrices also, like type of work you are doing, the technical related work as we have been discussing. But for PMP exam, I think they are good enough. You need to add Kanban board, you need to add lead time, cycle time, cumulative flow diagram. Then for PMP exam, they are good enough. Yeah. So product backlog health is one of the Agile metrics, question mark. Yeah, so I thought it's a statement or a question mark. Okay. And how do we calculate it? So we need to understand who is preparing this matrix. And based on that, we can come up with some recommendation. For a PMP exam perspective, you understand the product backlog, the upper item into the product backlog should be ready, and the items which are below are not expected to be ready. They should be highly at a high level. So what is a backlog health? The intent of measuring backlog health in some organization is to solve a problem of good backlog refinement. You have a situation where backlogs for upcoming iterations were not refined well. You do a sprint planning meeting and you face a problem. Or you have a situation where backlogs are refined too much in advance, and when you really start working, you have old information. So in order to get rid of it, you need to focus on creating a product backlog health. Yeah, that's something we can focus on. So how do you do it? You need to find out your own organization standard. But from an Agile perspective, it is not a PMP topic for that, because I'm going to invest is still coming in PMP. Deep is not coming in PMP. So we have two terms which is a guiding for your backlog health. One is called deep. So D is a DEEP, it's an acronym. So it says the backlog should be detailed appropriately. It should be emergent in nature. It should be estimated. It should be prioritized. Yeah. So you can use that guidance for checking, is my backlog detailed appropriately? You need to get into more subset of it. What is the meaning of detail appropriately? And emergent, estimated, what is the emergence means? How frequently you should be putting the idea. Estimated is easy, prioritized is relatively easy to find out. You can also use a guideline from invest. You can say that the stories which are expected to come in the upcoming iteration should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimated, small, testable. So you can use invest also. And then you can also use a reference from definition of ready for a PMP exam. So that is also something can tell you that the stories which are ready for upcoming iteration should be meeting the definition of ready. By using these things, one can come up with, if needed, if your problem is big for your backlog refinement, then you can definitely go for some kind of backlog health status. So how to handle a difficult stakeholder even if knowing the project scope is filled. Now he wants to add more scopes without adjusting to the cost or a timeline further. So if you get that question in a PMP exam or in an interview or in real life, the whole idea is, this is my skill. Yeah, the project manager is expected to handle that. So you can say, I need to come and says, I can do it. I have a skill in negotiating with people. I build trust with people. I explain them the big picture. I show them the constraints. I listen to them and they listen to me. And that's how I resolve the problem. So first thing is, as a project manager, I need to demonstrate that I can handle it. That's a mindset in my PMP exam. Now, what do? I will talk to them. I will listen to their concerns. I will use appropriate channel to analyze their impact. I will make sure that we have a common understanding about the project objective. What is this objective? How we can achieve? What are the constraints? So constraints, project objective, I as a project manager need to communicate again and again so people understand it well. And after that, if they have a problem, if they have a concerns, I listen to them. I involve appropriate stakeholders if it requires higher level decision making. And I show them the limitation. I show them the project objective. And by doing it, I negotiate, I explain, and I take it forward. So depending upon what option you have, you choose it. But some of the guidance is, you build trust, you create common understanding about your project goals, you communicate continuously, you empathize with the new feedback, you don't reject them, and you use appropriate impact analysis, appropriate channel, be it adaptive lifecycle, backlog refinement, predictive lifecycle, change control if that qualifies that particular thing, so that you can take it accordingly. So that's something you need to do for your PMP exam questions. So where are you doing a general session where we can ask? I don't do any general session as of now. It is just this we are doing right now. The general is our general commenting stage. We don't have a general, because we don't have a general audience that much. Yeah, so our customers are, or our people who want to do PMP is bigger. So that's why we are doing as of now PMP thing. But if any something general things come, we can take it often here. But in general, we can focus on that. Okay. Can you clarify what is definition of done? Yeah. So that's an important point to be considered for general understanding of Agile, as well as for general understanding for your PMP exam. So when you are working, a team member comes and says, I have done my work. And another team member also says, I have done my work. And you can say, okay, show me where is your work. And the person says, it is on my machine. I need to show it from there. And you can say, no, show it here. I want to see it on my machine. He says, no, it's not there. Okay. And when you say, oh, you start going to his machine and you start saying it. And then you say, why this error is coming? He says, yeah, this is a known error. I have not fixed the error, but I have finished the work. Then you are saying, guys, it looks like we don't have an understanding of when do we say this is over? When do we say this is finished? So can we have an agreement? Yeah? Can we have an agreement at the team level? Whenever we declare something is done, yeah, what all we should do it? That is called definition of done. It's a simple understanding. It's a working agreement which we make with our Agile team, with our product owner, with our stakeholders, to make them clear whenever we are marking the story is done, it should be meeting this particular doneness. Now, it can evolve over a period of time. Initially, you may have a little light definition of done criteria. Over a period of time, they can start adding more elements to definition of done. Yeah? That much is good enough for your PMP exam, and we use it as a mechanism to ensure internal quality. That's something is a thing. And it also creates a clarity about what all need to be planned in a given sprint/iteration. Yeah? That's the definition of done. So coordinate communication is the key. That's something we need to pick up. Negotiation, and you have a 42% of your PMP exam focusing on people domain. So you need to come up with that understanding. So if you are not using story points in Kanban board, how do we get a throughput but report? How do we know how much time they took close ticket? So please understand, story point does not tell you how much time you took to close the ticket. Story point is a measurement of complexity, the volume, it's a sizing of the work. Yeah. How much time you took to close the ticket is a simple calculation when you started and when you finished it. So the time, the start time and end time tells you how much time you took to finish the ticket. That's it. Yeah, that's your lead time, irrespective of you point story point or you don't point story point. So that's the thing. Timestamp of a starting of the ticket as it get recorded in your backlog, and timestamp whenever you mark it done. If you difference that, that's the time. Yeah. Now throughput has less to do with this time. Yeah, that's the lead time. Throughput is just counting the number of items you have finished in a given time duration. You can say in a given week, how many stories were marked done. That's a throughput. That's it. That's a simple measurement. It has nothing much to do with story points. It is just counting the number of items. Now somebody will say just counting the items without considering the size might be misinformative. So you need to understand you will use throughput when you don't have elements which are very drastically different in their sizing. So I will just focus on pizza count. Yeah, so what I focus on, I will just focus on how many pizzas we have delivered. I may not focus on I have delivered small pizza, medium pizza, large pizza. Yeah, I will say how many pizzas, then it's a throughput. But if I want to do some factoring of small, medium, large, then I need to do some sizing, maybe a story point or something else, and pick up some number which represents the size factored pizza delivery, which is not the case of throughput. Now, by seeing the velocity, shall we measure team productivity? Not necessary to come in a PMP exam. That's the important thing. Yeah, not expected to come in PMP exam. The other thing, what do you mean by productivity? So productivity is output versus input. Not necessary. The velocity can go down because of other factors also, rather than only team control factors. So it's a input. It's a information which shows how much output you have produced. Now, what was the reason of less output? We need to figure that out. We can't directly equate it is because the team was creating the problem. If you believe good output is because of team and bad output is also because of team, then you can say this is a team effect. But in general, there could be other factors. There could be automation which can produce good output, may not necessarily the team was collaborating enough. And there could be a because of any stuckness from external case. Even if the team is trying best, still they could not produce the output. So we need to be importantly see the question rather than that direct jump. Oh, this is what. In a PMP exam or in general project management, you need to see the question. You can't just say this is right. That's the thing. Okay, is the Kanban board are mandatory for every agile method of working? So say as per PMP exam, nothing is mandatory. Nothing is mandatory. You can have a 0 matrix and still you can run the project. No problem. Yeah? You can definitely do that. But what is usually promoted in the agile way of working is a transparency. Now, how do we promote transparency? One of the mechanisms of promoting transparency is every day we do a 15 minutes meeting. We discuss where we are, yeah, and we do it. That's a transparency. Yeah? That's a one way of transparency. But majorly, many a time we follow a transparency with the help of having pull communication. I don't have to do and inform people, and I make things visible. So usually it is frequently seen using a pull communication based transparency using a Kanban board. For a PMP exam perspective, I can definitely assume that I need to follow transparency. So what is the difference between velocity versus throughput? I think this is still not clear, so I clarify again. Velocity is a sum total of story points finished in a given iteration, in a given time box. If you have done 3 story points and they have a different 3 stories, and they have a one story is 3, another is 5, another is 5, your velocity is 13. But if you just count throughput, it will be 3 because you have finished 3 stories. So what is throughput? It is not dependent on you are estimating the story or you are estimating the work. It is assumes that you are doing work which are of similar size and you just count the number of work done. It is not expected to be a sprint also. You can say every day I want to count how many items are done. That could be your daily throughput. You may want to count weekly number of items done. That could be a weekly throughput. You can have a monthly throughput also. Usually throughput is used when you are using on-demand scheduling or a Kanban way of working, and the velocity mechanism is used when you are doing time-boxed working, because in a time-boxed or Scrum way of working, we take care of the items which are not similarly sized, and we want to use size factor output measurement rather than count factor output measurement, and that's why we use velocity, and we follow sprint mechanism or iteration mechanism. So our time box is always fixed for a given sprint. Yeah. So hopefully now this is clear, velocity versus throughput. Indicator is same, but little bit different. Okay. So what is the difference between minimum viable product and minimum marketable product? So this will be more confusing, because in our PMP exam, we also have one more element, which is a minimum business increment. Yeah, that's also there. So I stick to your words only. So say many a time they will be used interchangeably. That's also a fact. So I need to understand, if I'm giving an interview and all, I need to understand what the person means when he's saying something. But if I'm giving a PMP exam, then I have to have a clarity about these two differences. So minimum viable product is a version of a product which help us in validating our assumptions. I want to make a basic product and put this product in front of my stakeholders, in front of my users, so they start playing with it. And based on how they play with it, I understand the response, the behavior of the user, so I can find out what should I do next. Should I really continue with this product? Usually I create an MVP to take a decision. Should I continue, should I stop, or should I change my vision or change my direction for my product? So that's a little early stage. You want to take a drastic view based on the MVP. In a simple word, it's also a part of a small elements of your product backlog, which you build together and you put in front of your targeted user. That's a minimum viable product. Now, more or less, you are creating some items and you are putting in front of your users only. But if this thing is just not meant for learning, you know what is going to work, you have a pretty much understanding of how we want to progress here, but you want to give a first version where people start using it and you start playing with it. Yeah, they start using it and you start earning money. They get a usable, business usable product. That is minimum marketable feature. You can say, before I can make money, I need to have these many features in my product. That is called minimum marketable feature. Now, sometimes people will say, I will create an MVP at an MMF level and then I will use it for both purpose. No problem. But I want to do the bare minimum, super bare minimum for MVP, because after that, I want to take a call. Do I really want to continue with this project or this particular product or initiative? And that's the difference between MVP and MMF. MVP is expected to be more lightweight than MMF. MMF usually contain all your must-have feature if you're following Moscow, so that you have something which can serve the customer requirements. Okay. So interesting question. Say, after undergoing studies, videos, referring PMBOK 6.7 Agile Practice Guide, how do we measure our preparation? Do we start taking the test daily? So say, since you are part of our class, my recommendation is we have a 7 mock test, 7 full-length mock test. Take the full mock test in a one sitting, not partially. And if you score in a first attempt itself, say out of 180 questions, if you score 120 plus right, you are done. Yeah, you are ready for the exam. That's it. If you are not scoring that, then you analyze the problems and get ready for the next mock test, so that in a first attempt you want to score it right. Now, if you start doing tests too early without knowing the concepts, and then you do some 50 questions, 20 questions, I end up analyzing some of the participants' data like that, then it will lose the whole purpose. So keep the test little separate. They keep them as a safe thing. So once you are prepared, you are taking the test to take a feedback and go one by one. After first test is well understood, you have thoroughly done the analysis of it, taken a retake of it, then only go for second test. Yeah. Then only go for third test. That's how you move forward. Okay, I take this one. I think this is related to MVP, MBI. What is the difference between MVP and prototype? I will say all prototypes are not MVP. Yeah, but MVP is a little prototype. Yeah? It's a prototype which works. Yeah. So say prototype could be that you want to demonstrate someone and take a feedback. Prototype could be a drawing also. MVP should be a type of prototype which can be felt by the end user, which can be used by the end user. You just don't want to get a high level feedback. You want to really observe their uses. Yeah? So that's the MVP type of work. And you can say it's a little more stable than just a general prototype. But the intent is same. Prototype is also for the feedback, but MVP is for the feedback which we are taking from the targeted users. Yeah. That's something we are focusing. I see there was a question. So what is the difference between utilization and matrices, velocity? So see, I have a meeting room and I want to check every hour how many hours we have used this meeting room. That will be my utilization report. I might have hired a machine, a test server, and I want to see how it's a very expensive server and we are paying good money for every day. I want to see how well this server is used. In a predictive life cycle, I have a 20 people. I may also want to see how these 20 people are used over a period of 1 month. Those all are utilization reports. Those all are probably the productive hours and all those things. Intent is I want to understand, do we have a overutilization, underutilization? In our project management language, you want to do resource leveling and resource smoothing in order to have an optimum resource utilization. Because your job as a project manager is not to waste your company's money because you care for that. That's the intent of utilization. Now, velocity is the result output we have produced working together in a given duration and quantified in the format of story points. Now, even if two people were not working, still you will have a velocity. That's a possibility. So it is not directly linked to the utilization. Indirectly, it could be when you do a root cause analysis of the velocity, you may see that some of the resources are not used. That's why it is a problem. So indirectly, they can correlate, but no direct correlation. Okay, so hopefully these things are done. Okay, yeah. Any further question? I think we had good number of queries today. Yeah. So if I summarize again for our PMP exam perspective, the Agile metrics is like Burndown Chart, Burnup Chart, Velocity, Kanban Board. Working software definitely starts with that. And then outcome metrics is you need to collaborate with business stakeholders. That's also there. System thinking is needed. Yeah, the MVP can help us in creating these outcome matrices. We know that the objectives and key results can start getting observed based on MVP releases. So that's the idea. Yes, you want to follow that. So whenever the things goes out, you start focusing on these things. Yeah, and in a on-demand way of working or a lean Kanban way of working, we focus on things like lead time, starting point, ending time, because we don't focus on estimation because we believe we are doing similarly sized work. So we focus on lead time, we focus on cycle time, we focus on throughput, and we can see the trend of our flow using cumulative flow diagram. So these four are more associated with on-demand way of working, and lead time, cycle time, throughput are indicatively visible in a cumulative flow diagram. So if we keep this thing in mind and we understand the Kanban board is a good information sharing tool, usually they call it a new word, information radiator or something, then I am good with that. Yeah, so that's something you can follow. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you for kind words. Yeah, Sudhanshu, Avinash, thank you for joining. And as I said in my beginning of the session, we have created one WhatsApp community also. You can join. In my initial comment, you can find that link in a LinkedIn as well, in a YouTube as well. And the other participant will not be able to see your phone number. So privacy is guaranteed. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. Yes, I as an administrator will see it, but others will not. So say I have a lot of resources, so I can keep putting. The intention there is every day, once, twice, I can put some resource there, so one can join directly there. Yeah? In case you want to speed up your PMP preparation, and once you are done, you can exit from it. No problem in entering and exit. It's just a place to remain connected during the week rather than only waiting for the Friday session for our PMP exam preparation. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Please answer about AI in agility. Not clear about your question. Yeah. So what I say, any trend, say people are using social media or people are using AI based tool, it will have impact on all way of working. We don't necessarily have to mix it with agile way of working alone. That's the first thing. So we need to focus on how it impacts our delivery, how it impacts our business. That's it. Now, accordingly, we need to find out our approaches and our processes. So there is nothing like with AI, you will not do Kanban board. It is difficult to say so. And even if somebody says so, that is their framework, or you will say that AI will prepare a Burndown chart for you. Possible, but not necessarily the particular framework tells you to prepare a Burndown chart using AI. But I definitely use, if I have a complex data, if I'm analyzing Jira and I extract the Jira result, I give it to a chat GPT and it can create various graphs for me far more faster than if I go to Jira and select option, select date and all. It creates a lot of issue for me. So if I'm doing a focused analysis, I ask questions to my chat GPT, it produces a lot of trend, it answers me, and that is something I am using it. Yeah. Now, does it mean we need to say that in order to do a root cause analysis, you need to do this analysis? Depends. Yeah, you need to focus on. What is the other intent? We also need to support communication. We are here to create change. Yeah, because as a project manager, you have an outcome orientation also. Definitely, you can create a lot of content, lot of images, lot of communication using AI tools so that you can communicate fast and support your teams. You can do that. You may want to set up help desk using AI tools, but they are nothing much to do with agility or project management. They are just day-to-day working. So that way we can relate it. And as of now, there is nothing specific about it in a PMP exam. These are the things which I use on a daily basis. That's what I shared. I'm not saying it's for PMP exam. So if someone is focusing on PMP, ignore my last 2 minutes. But this is how I am using. Yeah. Okay, how frequent is this session for exam prep hours? So Ajay, we do more or less every Friday, same time. Yeah, more or less nowadays. I have a pattern now. Yes, yeah, that's how we do. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you will keep getting updates. If you want to aggressively follow, then you can be a part of that frequent update WhatsApp community where I will putting more community updates frequently. Yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone. See you next Friday and we explore something new. I will bring some new topic about your PMP area. And generic project management conversation also we can do a little bit, but yes, this session is more focused on the PMP content. Yeah. Thank you for participation. Bye for now.